And I want everybody watching this to remember this as you listen to probably what's going to be 30 plus hours of complete nonsense from the other side. So let's start with number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to America Truth Zone. If you're new to the channel, hit that like button and subscribe. We're bringing you the unfiltered truth the mainstream media won't tell you. Today, we're diving straight into the firestorm on Capitol Hill. The U.S. Senate just sat down to debate President Donald Trump's so-called Big Beautiful Bill, and let me tell you, it's not your typical piece of legislation.
Nobody who works for a living in this country knows better what's happened to them over the last 4 years than they do. They've seen inflation crush them. The price of a home became unaffordable. The price of an automobile became unaffordable. The price of groceries became a luxury. You go to the grocery store and you bring your normal order to the cashier and you think there's no way that can be my grocery bill. That was all policies that were driven by the other side's ridiculous assault on American workers. So what are we going to do about it? American workers have very seldom actually been represented in this chamber. This chamber has done a very good job of representing special interest groups and lobbyists, but here's what American workers get out of the one big beautiful bill. Number one, to address the price of automobiles, which, by the way, have been coming down under President Trump's term, despite the misinformation that car prices would soar. Let me just say that again. The price of automobiles has come down in the first 6 months of this year versus going up $8,000 during the Biden years. So what are we doing to make even it more affordable to own an automobile? We're going to allow full deductibility of any interest paid on car loans if the car is made in America. That is a significant relief for American workers. Secondly, no income tax on tips, overtime, or Social Security. A huge relief. That's probably about $1,500 to $2,500 extra in your pocket from not having to pay income tax on tips, overtime, or Social Security. And on top of that, the one big beautiful bill prevents about a $5,000 per American worker per year income tax increase. So can you imagine the Democrats are going to come on this floor and fight this bill and say it helps billionaires when they know that if we don't pass this bill, every American worker will pay $5,000 more in income taxes next year and for all years to come. Under Joe Biden, we had over 10 million illegals invade our country. I wasn't born in this country. I was born in South America. I had the honor and the privilege of being welcomed to this nation. Who did Joe Biden welcome? Not legal immigrants like myself, but rather people who broke our laws to come here. And what was the result? They drove up our housing prices. They drove up our insurance premiums. They lowered the wages for American workers. They crippled our cities, and crime surged. So what does the one big beautiful bill do, Mr. President? It funds the immigration and customs enforcement so that we can get these people out of our country. They should never have been allowed to come here. We have 5,000 border agents trying to get rid of 600,000 criminal aliens. These aren't just people who came here illegally. That was a crime in of itself. This is 600,000 people who committed another crime, Mr. President, and we don't have the resources to deport them. This bill gives us the money to do that. You know, you have kids, I have kids, Mr. President. Raising kids has become really, really expensive. I was one of 7. My dad was one of 11. My grandfather was one of 23. I only have 4, underperforming. Raising kids is really, really hard, really expensive. What does this bill do? It gives every working American $2,200 per child per year. $2,200 per child per year to help alleviate with the cost of raising kids. In addition, this is something new and exciting. You have a birth of an American baby in this country, and the federal government will put $1,000 into a bank account. Companies, your employers, nonprofits, whatever group wants to, they can put money in that account. That account will grow with an index, and when that child who's born here in America, an American citizen, by the time they get to be 25 or 30 years old, Mr. President, guess what? They can have a decent little sum of money, a couple $100,000. They can use it for education, for upskilling, whatever they want. Nobody's ever done that to help American workers in that way, and we can do that. Now, look, healthcare is a massive expense. You're a doctor. You know what's going on in our healthcare system. It is crushing working families. What does the One Big Beautiful Bill do? It provides funding for health savings accounts, so you can use pre-tax dollars to fund it. So if there's that emergency, that you can have that to tap into. Huge improvement. And of course, let me just be crystal clear. This bill does not touch Social Security in any way whatsoever, even though I've had to listen to my colleagues over and over again for the last 6 months saying that we're eliminating, crushing, destroying Social Security. We do not touch Social Security. We don't touch Medicare at all. Let me repeat that. We don't touch Social Security or Medicare, despite how many online videos they do, or how many press interviews they do, or how much time the media repeats that misinformation. We don't touch Social Security or Medicare. Now, on Medicaid, here's what we do. We strengthen it. In fact, in my state, in Ohio, the hospitals will get more money to provide Medicaid to the people that need it, the disabled, pregnant women, children, older Americans who are in need. We are giving them more money. We will spend more money on Medicaid with the One Big Beautiful Bill than if we don't do it. Is that something that you've heard from the other side? Completely the opposite. Now, what we are doing is we're eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse, which has been rampant in that system. And we're starting the process of reforming the way the states and the federal government's relationship works in Medicaid. The states have abdicated that responsibility. We're working to reset that in a very methodical way. And for working Americans who are able-bodied, Mr. President, we're asking to do what Bill Clinton wanted, which is to put a work requirement on able-bodied adults. Let's define that. What does able-bodied mean? Between 18 and 60, no disabilities, no dependent children, you can work. And then what is the work requirement? 80 hours a month of either work, volunteering, community service, or upskilling, going to a place like, for example, Cuyahoga Community College or Kent State University or Columbus State University, where they can go in and get a skill that allows them to come into the workforce. Very common sense, not controversial at all, but you'll hear the other side say that we're kicking 60 million people off health insurance. I can't even count how many meetings I've had with my Republican colleagues. As you know, Mr. President, we meet quite often, hundreds and hundreds of meetings. And our North Star, the center of gravity for our party, is how do we help Americans? See, putting America first means that we're going to put our resources to help American citizens. The other side, they want to give hundreds of billions of dollars to illegals. They want to have states be able to take that Medicaid money that's for American citizens and give it to people who shouldn't even be in this country. That is.
The floor opened with the senator from Ohio, and he didn't hold back. He called this a historic moment, boldly declaring the bill a transformative reset, a direct reversal of what he described as 4 years of betrayal toward American workers. He's talking real pain, inflation, housing, car prices, groceries, everything skyrocketed. Let's cut through the noise. Despite the fear-mongering from the left, this bill does not touch Social Security or Medicare. Not 1 cent. That's straight from the Senate floor. But what does it do? It strengthens Medicaid, especially in states like Ohio, where hospitals serving the poor, elderly, and disabled get a bigger lifeline. Then came the mic drop moment. The senator slammed Democrats for giving billionaires a $7,500 tax credit to lease a Rolls-Royce. That's right. A car where the umbrella costs more than your rent. A car where the sound system is $22,000, and your tax dollars help pay for it. The senator made it simple. Grow the economy, and you grow the treasury. He argued that if we get back to just 3% GDP growth, the resulting revenue will pay for the tax relief this bill offers. He called it what it is, the big, beautiful bill. But here's the kicker: he called out Washington for what it really is, a swamp where lying is the currency and truth gets buried. His words, not mine. And he's not wrong. Remember the 1996 welfare reform? This bill brings back work requirements for able-bodied adults. Common sense that's been long forgotten in the Capitol echo chamber. Now, here's where things get shady. With no real support for the bill, Senate Republicans were scrambling to meet an arbitrary deadline. Late-night edits, political games, and suddenly, even Republicans were shocked at how radical some changes had become, especially regarding clean energy cuts meant to kill wind and solar. Let's talk facts. The bill includes $160 billion, yes, billion with a B, to undo Biden's border disaster. That means more Border Patrol agents, more ICE officers, more technology, and yes, funding to complete the wall.
Democrat colleagues will talk about how this adds to the deficit, which is factually inaccurate. Actually, for the first time in my lifetime, we have a bill before Congress that will reduce spending. We've never seen that. They passed something called the Inflation Reduction Act that blew a hole in our deficit, did the exact opposite of reducing inflation. In fact, inflation went up. Let me give you an example of what that bill did, Mr. President, because I don't think this has been well reported. If you're a multi-millionaire, in fact, they like to talk about billionaires now because most of them, by the way, are millionaires. I'm not sure how that happened. That's a different conversation for a different day. But they like to talk about billionaires. You could have a billionaire walk into a Rolls-Royce dealership. A billionaire walk into a Rolls-Royce dealership, buy a $500,000 Rolls-Royce, and decide to lease it. And the Democrats gave that billionaire a check for $7,500 to offset the cost of that Rolls-Royce. Now, what does a $7,500 credit do for you in a Rolls-Royce? Well, the umbrella that comes in the door is $12,000. Doesn't quite cover the cost of that. The monograms on the headrest are about $5,000, so you can cover that with the $7,500. You won't cover anywhere near the cost of the audio system. It's $22,000. Think about how sick that is. They come on the floor and say that we're helping billionaires when they're giving $7,500 checks to people who lease these kinds of cars. It's sick. What are we doing? We're getting rid of all these green new scams. We're cutting the budget deficit. We're finally putting fiscal responsibility. It's the reason, Mr. President, why in the last 6 months, here's what we've seen. Inflation has never been lower. Gas prices are way down. Egg prices are way down. The stock market is at a record high. Remember the stock market that the Democrats were saying it was going to be 1932 all over again just 60 days ago? Record, not record this year, all-time record, all-time record. Now they said tariffs were going to destroy the economy, not true. And this one big, beautiful bill does all of these things and reduces our deficit. What's holding us back? Why can't we pass this piece of legislation that helps working Americans? I'm old enough to remember when the Democrat Party was a party of the working class. This is the kind of bill that most Democrats would have advocated for 20, 30 years ago. The center, the North Star, the guiding post for this bill is, does it help our middle class? Does it help working Americans? This bill does that in the ways that I just outlined. You would think that the Democrats would rush to the floor to vote for this thing. Instead, they will mischaracterize it at every step of the way. I just laid out the facts. The bill is 940 pages long. You want to read it for yourself. Don't believe what you hear in the media. Don't believe what the Democrats are going to tell you. Believe what I just told you, because these are facts that are indisputable. In fact, I'll close with this, Mr. President. I will guarantee you that there's not one thing I outlined here today, any of these aspects of the bill, that my colleagues will dispute, because they can't, because it's in the plain text of the bill. Instead, what they'll do is they'll use cliche lines like that we're taking away health insurance from people who need it to give it to their billionaire buddies. You mean like George Soros? You mean like the founder of LinkedIn, who funded all kinds of nonsense, those billionaires, right? Look, you want to find the center of gravity today for the Democrat Party? Go to Martha's Vineyard, where the average price home is $30 million. That's their North Star. What's our North Star, Mr. President? Communities in your state, communities in my state, like Chillicothe, Ohio. That's the center of our gravity for our party. It's a new party. I'll acknowledge that. The Republican Party of today is not the party that I knew 20 or 30 years ago. And it was a mistake that we weren't thinking about the working class the way we are today. But here we are, on the verge of passing one big, beautiful bill. Now, look, if you're an American watching, I can see why you're confused. If I were somebody who was reading, for example, in my hometown newspaper, the Cleveland Plain Dealer, if I read that all day, I'd probably think something different because it's all propaganda from the other side. I just laid it out. I would challenge anybody in the media, anybody listening to this, any of my Democrat colleagues to come out here on the floor and go line by line with what I just said and tell me what I just said is not true. This is what this bill is all about. I am so proud, Mr. President, that I had the honor of even being a tiny part of putting a bill that is so historic and so transformative. I urge all my Republican colleagues, every single one of them, to come out here on the floor. Let's get the motion to proceed going. Let's get the bill passed. Let's get it back to the House. To my House colleagues, come back, get this bill done, and let's celebrate July 4th with the greatest bill ever passed by the United States Congress. With that, I yield.
Conclusion: no apologies, just truth. The big beautiful bill isn't perfect, but it does cut through the noise and deliver on priorities the American working class has been begging for, and whether the media likes it or not, the conversation is changing. So once again, smash that like button, subscribe, and share this video. This is America Truth Zone, where we don't sugarcoat the facts, we expose them. Till next time, stay sharp, stay strong, and never stop seeking the truth.